Now, Dawkins, and I hope you can forgive me if I read my notes to you. I'm just better that way, but these are things that I've written here. Dawkins relies heavily on quotes from famous thinkers in order to advance his erroneous propositions on atheism. And right now, I'm not challenging Dr. Dawkins and his preparation as an evolutionary biologist. I'm sure he is a very competent biologist. He's a very poor theologian, and he is misleading us with what he has to say about Thomas Jefferson or John Adams, and let's go on from there. So, in order to disarm American fundamentalists and his particular nemesis, the creationists, he takes pains to establish the secular underpinnings of the political philosophies that are incorporated in the fundamental principles of American government. Here's what he has to say about the founding fathers of the American Republic. Certainly, their writings on religion in their own time leave me in no doubt that most of them would have been atheists in ours. And then Dr. Dawkins goes on to offer quotes. He quotes John Adams as saying, "This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it." Now this seems to be clear and definite. On the face of it, it might be judged an apt way to make a point about the religious views of an American statesman. But I want to read you the full quote in the context of Adams' correspondence with Thomas Jefferson. And forgive me if I'm boring you with details, but this is what Adams said in 1817. On April the 19th, he wrote this letter to Thomas Jefferson. "At that period, Lemuel Bryant was my parish priest, and Joseph Cleverly was my Latin schoolmaster. Lemuel was a jolly, jocular, and liberal scholar and divine. Joseph a scholar and gentleman, but a bigoted Episcopalian of the school of Bishop Saunders and Dr. Hicks, a downright conscientious, passive, obedient man in church and state. The parson and the pedagogue lived much together, but were eternally disputing about government and religion. One day, when the schoolmaster had been more than commonly fanatical and declared, if he were a monarch, he would have but one religion in his dominions, the parson coolly replied, 'Cleverly, you would be the best man in the world if you had no religion.' 20 times in the course of my late reading have I been upon the point of breaking out, 'This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it.' But in this exclamation I should have been as fanatical as Bryant or Cleverly. Without religion, this world would be something not fit to be mentioned in polite company. I mean hell. So far from believing in the total and universal depravity of human nature, I believe there is no individual totally depraved. The most abandoned scoundrel that ever existed never yet wholly extinguished his conscience, and while conscience remains, there is some religion." Now that is what John Adams actually said. And here is Jefferson's reply on May 5th in 1817. "If by religion we are to understand sectarian dogmas in which no two of them agree, then your exclamation on that hypothesis is just. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. But if the moral precepts innate in man and made part of his physical constitution as necessary for a social being, if the sublime doctrines of philanthropism and deism taught us by Jesus of Nazareth, in which all agree constitute true religion, then without it, this would be, as you again say, something not fit to be named, even indeed a hell." Now, I am not by any means suggesting that Thomas Jefferson was the poster boy for Christianity. Thomas Jefferson was indeed a deist, but he's not the atheist that Dawkins goes on to claim in his book, and certainly Adams was no atheist. But once again, I want his own words to speak for him. Adams wrote this to Jefferson on December 8th in 1818. "I believe in God and in his wisdom and benevolence, and I cannot conceive that such a being could make a species as the human merely to live and die on this earth. If I did not believe in a future state, I should believe in no God. This universe, this all, this totality would appear with all its swelling pomp of boyish firework. So John Adams' words clearly, John Adams is able to say what he believes in for himself. So I implore readers to go to the source. Now, you know, there's a wonderful collection of the correspondence between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, edited by Lester J. Capon in 1959. It's from the University of North Carolina Press, and I urge you to go and compare all of the quotes in the God Delusion that are attributed to Thomas Jefferson or John Adams or any of our statesmen, and get them in the context that they were offered. Here's something else Jefferson had to say on Christianity. When divested of its rags in which scheming priests have enveloped it and brought to the original purity and simplicity of its benevolent institutor, it is a religion of all others most friendly to liberty, science, and the freest expression of the human mind. Now that's Thomas Jefferson's opinion of Christianity. He wrote this letter to Moses Robinson in 1801, if you care to go and find it for yourself. Now, frankly, Jefferson wrote many things that are offensive to Orthodox Christianity. He was anti-Semitic. He was a flawed human being, just like so many of the rest of us. But I don't think it fair to co-opt another person's thinking without giving it the actual context that that person intended. And so that's my point in challenging Dr. Dawkins on offering what Thomas Jefferson or John Adams had to say in support of atheism. Of course, I find that he does this as well in quoting Einstein, who was probably the most brilliant mind of the 20th century, a deeply compassionate man, a man of just inexplicable brilliance. I think that Einstein has so much to say for us in answering the question on God and science, and I'm going to invite you to a further conversation with me as we explore the possibilities of the reality of God. Please come back and visit me on my video blog.